With the rapid evolution of society and the advent of new technologies, genetics, information system, and use-related issues have emerged. The new technologies have spawned with the risky applications, genetic manipulations, weapons of mass destruction, control of information by interfering with individuals' private life, or adverse effects such as the pollution of the planet and the drastic depletion of natural resources, or application made without an analysis of their long-term effects and consequences. Technological advances such as cloning, euthanasia, abortion, and even chemical intervention with unforeseen and uncontrollable mutations in humans may serve morally dubious ends. Using information for objective harmful to human civilization is problematic from both a legal and ethical standpoint, as information should be used to promote humanity's well-being, not its destructions. How do you feel about cloning? Some people consider it dangerous, while others consider it to be equivalent to any other form of reproduction. With a film as diverse as Jurassic Park, Oblivion, and Us, Hollywood has without a doubt provided us with some fascinating perspective. There are numerous unanswered questions concerning human cloning or the production of a genetic copy of an individual. Remember that human cloning can refer to human reproductive cloning, in which the embryo is transferred to a human womb and carried to term. In contrast, human non-reproductive cloning involves the creation of an embryo that does not develop beyond a cluster of cells and is not implanted in the womb. Let's investigate the ethical and legal implications of cloning for human reproduction. Cloning human is a controversial issue that raises legal, political, ethical, and religious questions regarding human dignity and rights. All social sectors have responded to the development of a genetically identical individual. These controversial issues raises the following ethical issues. Will science be able to produce an intelligent and conscious superhuman? Will technology be used to subjugate everyone, bringing slavery back into existence in the modern era? Since Zoli was learned, the media, politics, religion, and public opinion have all reacted in different ways to the new technology, which has led to questions about whether or not it is immoral to clone humans. From the perspective of the scientific revolution, Wilbert conducted the following fundamental study to make doll leadership. First, a specialized dog cell was deprived of nutrition to become inactive. Second, an egg cell from a Scottish blackfish sheep was stripped of all its DNA strands, eliminating any genetic relationship to the Scottish blackfish species. In Ohio, on the other hand, a mouse with exceptional physical ability was generated through genetic engineering by modifying the genetic sequence that regulates glucose metabolism. It was deemed of paramount importance because biological limitations had been overcome. These two instances have previously marked the time of cloning a living organism. Thus, it's only a matter of time before we see reproductions of historical figures who have influenced humanity somehow. As a result of the violation of human rights, such actions are deemed criminal by the legal frameworks of all European and North American nations. Human values will be compromised, threatening the individual's dignity, uniqueness, and integrity. Thus, the legal, ethical, scientific, medical, and religious implications of human cloning vary from place to place and culture to culture. The violations of human dignity in human cloning and reproductive cloning is among the most controversial problems. This topic creates numerous questions because scientific advancements limit the existence of the human being to sell and buy contracts. The individual is viewed as a mere commodity that can be acquired to satisfy particular demands such as organ transplantation in this case. Therapeutic cloning, the creation of embryos from specialized harvesting cells, violates the dignity of the unborn human being and by extension the dignity of the entire human species, as human life is no longer regarded as the highest value, and the individual is denied the right to his own life. In this case, the concept of non-injury is breached, as human life is created with the intent to destroy it. In reproductive cloning, one raises the issues of the right of ownership over a human being. The embryo eventual development in artificial uterus raises problems about parental rights and responsibility concerning the newly formed human being. Estimates are how long the embryo will last until it is destroyed. In this context, the human being sees as a consumer good that will eventually be killed. The production of human clone for medicinal purposes can also be viewed in terms of the property right. The use of organs may result in a diminished quality life or even death. Creating human beings by changing their genetic traits draw attention to a sacred concern about integrity, the destruction of self-awareness and capacity to dispute or make decisions entails the destruction of individual autonomy. A human being is viewed as a manipulable object that can end up possessing individual or group of individuals. Physical implication. Human cloning has enormous error margin, which brings us to our first ethical concern. The likelihood of creating many non-viable or malformed embryos is high. This could lead to a significant rise in abortions and miscarriages, which are very unpopular and very hard on people's emotions. Suppose the embryo successfully implants and growth happens, there is a substantial likelihood that the clone will be aberrant or malformed. What occurs to the clones at this stage? Remember that the purpose of cloning is to make identical humans. Does this allow the right to murder the clones if it's not similar? Or does he have the right to live? Is the one who commissioned the clones accountable for it, or what if they reject it because it is not an exact duplicate? What if it takes years to determine that the clone is not an identical duplicate? Who is accountable for what went wrong? What are the consequences to the clones? Second, social consequences. Do clones have parents? Since clones are not created through sexual reproduction, do they have who is responsible for the clone's necessities? Whether or not a clone could ever become self-sufficient is an additional ethical concern. Is it okay to produce individuals who will constantly be dependent on others? This raises the questions of who is accountable for assisting them throughout their life. The purpose of waiting a clone is to create a copy of someone. When replicating a person, must individual consider all aspects, including personality and emotions. However, the character is not primarily defined by gene. Certainly, genetics play a role, but more important is how genetic predisposition interact with environmental stresses. Third, clone legal protections. One of the final ethical questions to be resolved is the freedom of the clone. What are the clone's rights if? Is it successful and can become dependent? What if the clone desires something different from the individual who made it? The argument that the clone was created for a specific reason and will not have a life otherwise can be advanced. The counter-arguments that independent adult is capable of making their judgments. Lastly, legal status. Decades-long discussions about the legality of human cloning have occurred in the virtually every double tension, including in the debate is how to regulate clones should they be created. Several countries, including France and Germany, strictly prohibit human cloning, while others, including England and China, permit human cloning for research purposes but not for reproduction. Others have no law concerning human cloning. According to the opinion, under the guise of enhancing the quality of life, genetic engineering researchers should not view the human individual as the study object but rather as a subject. Both reproductive and therapeutic cloning could be deemed immoral from a bioethical, legal, and religious standpoint. On the one hand, the individual is possibly violating fundamental human rights. The individual is formed for a practical reason and subsequently destroyed. Thus, the third party's unilaterally seized control over life and the living being's existence is exploited for functional purposes. On the other hand, these behaviors may potentially result in the evolution of a human species by restricting consciousness. From a logical perspective, we assert that knowledge in genetic engineering has many flaws. The freedom to manipulate genetic material limits the clone's right and the ownership of the evolving self. Conclusion: dignity, the right to life, consciousness, and intelligence are ideal and inalienable rights of the human species. Denying this principle carries the risk of subjugating the individual and thereby denying their rights to evolve. Cloning humans could create a new form of servitude in a new modern era. For the self-reflection based on my knowledge, cloning can help prevent the extinction of species, increase food productions, and help people to have children. But they have a cons of cloning. The process is not entirely safe and accurate. It is regarded as unethical due to the nature of human behavior, and the probability of abuse is very high.